Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be talking about the Dark Zone from the perspective of a PvE player who has observed the Dark Zone since the onset of the Division game. Now, I know many people say, oh, he doesn't PvP, so why should we take his opinion about anything PvP related? Well, that's your prerogative. You can close the video, but the Dark Zone parameters I want to speak about are the Dark Zone parameters that actually affect PvP and PvE, which is the open-ended game sandbox. Like if I walk into the Dark Zone right now, there is PvE content, and then there's also the PvP side of things. Now, conflict is where you also, engage in PvP. That's also slightly different, and that's what makes the Dark Zone quite interesting. So I want to address a few things that the developers mentioned in their 3-hour post, event after revealing Year 2, because I think I see a trend and a pattern for a shift that's going to make PvP actually better. So if you're a PvP person, I think, maybe you can hear me out. Maybe you can correct me if there are things that I say that's wrong. My knowledge is limited. So they mentioned a few things about the Dark Zone. First thing was their vision of the Dark Zone. They want to make the Dark Zone be this harrowing place that players have to literally second guess, themselves to make sure that they're ready before they go in. This is the original vision of the Division 1. The Division 1, when I first went into the Dark Zone with a bunch of guys, we were all scared. We were level 14. We got our first trophy for extracting, and I remember the picture because I remember I messaged the picture to a bunch of the guys, after a few months into the game, and I remember that day everybody was just freaking out. Grown men freaking out about this place. That shows you that vision was actually there from the onset. Now the Dark Zone doesn't seem to be that way because a lot of things just kind of got put in place, like Occupy DZ, in terms of normalization. There are two different kinds of normalizations and all that, and it's just all over the place. So what I think is they're probably going to eventually get to a point where the Dark Zone experience, I'm not talking about conflict, I mean that's a whole different discussion. The Dark Zone experience and the Light Zone experience, when I say Light Zone, I mean outside the Dark Zone, will be two very separate things. And in them even mentioning that in their post show, they will separate the PvP and PvE experience in this game. Now, that's not like a hard separation. It's kind of a soft, chasm. It's like drawing a line in the sand where the line is not as blurry as it used to be. Instead, the line is much clearer, but they are going to be, it's going to be like a semi-permeable membrane in a sense. For those of you who are scientists, you get what I'm saying. Now, think about one statement that they made. They asked the question. They said somebody asked the question, I think on the stream, and said, is there going to be specialization ammo in the Dark Zone? And Drew said, no, there's not going to be any specialization ammo in the Dark Zone. So your specialization weapons will not work anymore in the Dark Zone. This is a good improvement because this is now showing that in the Dark Zone there are going to be specific rules. They've made parameter changes like these in the Division 1 where they removed Predator's Mark from the meta of the Dark Zone, and then they also kind of they did kind of a soft kick of Striker from the PvP meta. So this is what needs to happen, because if you take away PvP and put it in its little in its little home and give it its own home, it's going to thrive because now you've unleashed PvP and it now has no limits. It doesn't have to worry about, what might happen in the PvE game and how that can break the experience for everybody else. Think about it. When the Eagle Bearer first, was presented, and when that was, one of it was and might still be the best weapon in the game, the people who got their hands on it first immediately ran into the Dark Zone and started using it. And that's the idea of the Dark Zone. You get what you can and make sure that, you have the upper hand. But at the same time, that experience ruined it for everybody, because once anybody faced anybody with the Eagle Bearer, they knew they were toast. And so experiences like that, if PvP was playing in its own rules, will make PvP now be a place where if you're coming in here in terms of the PvE Dark Zone, then you have to have the skill to be able to deal with things. And so I think they're going to do a gradual process where they start, creating rules for the dark zone that make it exclusive from the light zone. That way, people who go into the dark zone know exactly what they're doing. And this way, even the developers themselves can actually have a good night's sleep and not worry that some broken build from PvE will make its way into the dark zone. And then now they have to get up and then they have to kind of, sort through numbers. And then, by default, usually this is already driving players away from the game. And then by the time they come around to making the changes, it's almost too late. Case in point, the shotgun high, armor meta that has literally spoiled, according to the PvP players anyways, the PvP of the game. I mean, that's what a lot of PvP players have been mentioning as one of the problems. And, before the developers even are going to get around this, it's not going to be till about March 3rd. And so people who are turned off by this are literally going to be waiting, for at least 2 weeks before they see a significant change. And even when they see the significant change, many people that are playing PvP are only going to be looking for ways to exploit these changes to give themselves the upper advantage. So because of the mindset of the dark zone, because of the way it's been presented and the way that it's been done, that's what you're always going to see. You're always going to see overpowered builds. Gear 2.0, in my opinion, is still going to have OP dark zone builds. The best way that they can organize this is to say the rules for the dark zone are going to be set. They're going to be tweaked until we can get the dark zone to the place where we like it. And then things can flow from there. And that might be to a place where they say, hey, certain things are just not going to work in the dark zone against other players. They did it with Predator's Mark. They also did it with Striker. I'm not saying they need to change everything, but they need to start taking that gradual step. They don't have to say, oh, today we're separating everything. No, they just have to do it in a transition where players who are in the dark zone understand this, and then they can still have fun and they can still engage in the content. Because sure, a lot of the loot that you're going to get in the dark zone, if not every single loot you're going to get in the dark zone, is PvE based. Chests, bad guys, NPCs, bosses. And now, even with the new rules, everything is going to be contaminated. So it's not like you can pick up something in the dark zone and, slap it on and then, you're back out there. No, you have to extract it. So things are going to be a lot more controlled in this DZ. And I feel like they have to continue to do that. In a Division 1, everything, I think maybe if you got like some rewards, maybe, but everything that you got from the dark zone was, contaminated, and you had to extract it. And so this, I think, is where the PvP game needs to go. Some people, are probably going to not enjoy the loss of, maybe XP or the consequences of dying in the dark zone initially. But I think everybody needs to understand that when you go in the dark zone, the risk and the reward needs to be high. I know people always say, oh yeah, dark zone, high risk, high reward. And I've heard people say that before, but trust me, when they implement the high risk, high reward, a lot of people they're gonna complain initially because they're going to go gung-ho. You guys know Massive, they can be heavy-handed whenever they want to make some of these changes. That's usually how they are. They're very drastic, studio in terms of implementation. When they nerf, boy, do they nerf hard. I mean, they know how to do it. So when they make these parameters, I think eventually it will now be enjoyable to those who want that true hardcore PvP experience. I think it's going to separate, the how do they say it? The shaft from the grain, or it's going to separate the boys from the men when this actually comes into place. And then people who are actually, being phony about their PvP experience or their dark zone experience, they're going to eventually see that this is no joke. So this is a good thing, in my opinion anyways. I think it will make the hardcore PvP community happy, and then those who want to eventually engage in this will have to gain that mindset, learn the tips and tricks, understand the ropes, and then make their way into this area. So this is going to be pretty much my first commentary on the future I perceive for the dark zone. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. And I know I don't PvP, but I do go in the dark zone to farm. And I will confess, this dark zone has been really strange for me. I like the big sandbox myself in the Division 1, all I did was just run the Dark Zone by myself solo, because I really enjoyed that aspect of it, because it challenged me, helped me realize, you know, if I was prepared to face other players or tough situations with enemy NPCs. And so if they bring this new Dark Zone that's supposed to be more brutal, I'll be very happy to go in there and check it out. So like I said, I'll hear your comments in the comment section. I'll be reading, I'll be responding to the ones that, you know, I can in a timely manner. And I guess that's it for me. So thank you very much for your time and audience. I appreciate you guys' you know, participation in the channel. And I guess I'll see you in the next video. Peace.